ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथ बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्। अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरते य उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओमित्येतदक्षरमुद्गीतमुपासीत ओमिति ह्युद्गायते तस्योपव्याख्यानम् उद्दालकोह आरुणिः श्वेतकेतुं पुत्रमुवाच स्वप्नान्तं मे सौम्य विजानीहीति यत्रैतत्पुरुषस्वपिति नाम सता सौम्य तदा सम्पन्नो भवति समपीतो भवति तस्मादेनं स्वपीत्या चक्षते संह्यपीतो भवति। उद्दालको आरुणि उद्दालक द son of Aruna Shvetaketum Putramavacha. He told his son Shvetaketu. This mention of Putra is very important because father will pass on to the son the very best. There will be affection or love, desire for his well-being, and also passing on the very best that one has. So very often Putra himself used to be Shishya also. Swapnantam me Somya Vijanihiti. He Somya, O good looking one, may you know from me Swapnantam, the deep sleep. Yatraitat Purusha Swapiti Nama. When this person is sleeping, Sata Swamitada Sampanno Bhavati, then he becomes one with, or he attains the state of being Sat or existence. He becomes Sat or existence. Swam apito bhavati. He becomes absorbed in his own self. Tasmadem swapiti iti achakshate. So this person has got a name, Swapiti. Swapiti is a verb also, he sleeps. It's a name of the sleeper. Therefore they call him Swapiti. This is nirukta way of explaining a word. By the arrangement of the letters which are there, they explain the meaning of the word. Is a very special way that the Upanishads employ. These Upanishads employed this earlier also, and that's the method. So that brings out a very profound concept or profound idea that is involved in a given word. It's a very good way of bringing it out. So Paniniya way is different. The Vyutpatti or the etymological meaning is different. From the root swap, then swapiti is only a tingantam, meaning that it's a verb. But here swapiti is explained as name. Tasmadenam swapiti achakshate. Therefore people say swapiti. He's swapiti. Some he apito bhavati, because he attains his own self. So swapnantam means swapna madhyam. Swapnantam, swapna madhyam. What is swapna? Swapna iti darshan vrutte swapnasya akhya. So sleep is of two kinds. One kind in which there is darshan vrutti, where there is seeing or experiencing. Other kind is where darshan nivrutti, there is a cessation of all darshan. Therefore, so swapna iti darshan vrutte swapnasya akhya. That sleeping characterized by seeing, that is called swapna here. And tasya antam, tasya madhyam. So the middle of the dream or the core of the dream. So middle is explained as very core of the dream, meaning the very essence of the dream, the truth of the dream, the cause of the dream, which is deep sleep. Tasya madhyam swapnantam sushuptam ityetata, meaning is it is sushuptam, the deep sleep. Athva swapnantam swapna satatvam, the essential nature of swapna, which is its cause, which is again deep sleep. Tatrapi arthat sushuptameva bhavati. So by arthapatti, what is arthapatti? Swam apito bhavati iti vachanat. So some darshan nivrutti is there both. So darshan nivrutti in deep sleep state, darshan nivrutti is there in both these sleep, dream as well as waking. But swapnantam, the essential nature of swapna, essential nature of dream, which is deep sleep, which is based on the following sentence, swam apito bhavati iti vachanat, because Upanishad says that one attains one's own self. That happens only in deep sleep and not in dream or not in waking. Nai anyatra sushuptam swam apidim jivasya ichchandi brahmavidah. The notes of Brahman say that one attains one's own self only in a deep sleep state and not in any other state, dream or waking state. Tatra hi adarsha apanayane purusha pratibimba bambha adarsagato yatha swamayam purusham apito bhavati. It's an example, just as the reflection in a mirror. When the mirror is removed, then the reflection attains its own self, which is the face or image. Evam mana adi uparame. So here, what is the mirror? The mind or subtle body is the mirror. Chaitanya प्रतिबिंब रूपेण जीवेन आत्मना मनसि प्रविष्टा नाम व्याकरणाय परा देवता. So just as my face has entered the dream, entered the mirror, so also para devata, param brahma has entered the mind as a jiva, as a reflection. So mind is in the place of mirror. So when the mirror, the mind is removed, then what happens to the reflection is the jiva merges into its true nature, which is the Paramatma or Sat. सा स्वमेव आत्मानं प्रतिपद्यते जीवाख्यतां मनाख्यां हित्वा. So when the consciousness is reflected in the mind, it is called jiva, it is also called manah. So it's jivatvam, the state of being a jiva, the state of being mind is given up. When the mirror in the form of mind is removed, then jivatvam also is given up, merges into its true nature, which is Sat or Param Brahma. अतः सुषुप्तः एव स्वप्नांत शब्दवाच्यः इति अवगम्यते. Therefore, the meaning of the word swapnanta should be sushupta, because swam hi apito bhavati. So, the swapnanta also is a state where one attains one's own self, and that is only sushuptam, deep sleep. Yatra tu supta swapnan pashyati. When the sleeping person sees a dream, that means in the dream state. Tat swapnam darshanam sukha dukkha sanyuktamiti papa punya karyam. The dream state, he experiences pleasure and pain, which are the products of the punya and papa, or the virtue and vice. Punya punyayorhi sukha dukkharambhakatvam prasiddham. Because it's an accepted fact that sukha or happiness is a little punya, virtue, and dukkha, then happiness, is a little papa or vice. And in the dream state, this person experiences pleasure and pain. That means that they are the products of punya and papa or karma. Again, punya punyayohoscha avidya kamopastambhenaiva sukha dukkha tad darshana karyarambhakatvam upapadyate na anyatha. And punya also, or punya and papa also, can give rise to sukha dukkha only when that punya are accompanied with ignorance and desire. Avidya kamopastambhenaiva sukha dukkha tad darshana karyarambhakatvam. Then only will produce sukha dukkha and darshana, the experience of sukha dukkha, when avidya and kama are also there along with the punya karma. Nanyatha, not otherwise, if desire is not there. Yasya sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnana dagdha karmanam. So when ignorance is gone, desire also is gone, then punya and papa become ineffective to do anything. Iti avidya kama karma vi samsara hetu vi sanyukta eva swapneti swam apito na swam apito bhavati. Therefore, in the dream state, this person is associated with ignorance and desire and karma, and therefore it is not possible that he attains his own self. He is a samsari at that time. सुषुप्ते तु अविद्या काम कर्म रहितत्वेन स्वरूप प्राप्ते श्रुति सिद्धत्वात्. Whereas in the deep sleep state, the Shruti has very clearly said that Sarupa Prapti, one attains one's true nature. Avidya, Kama, Karma, Rahitatvam, that in deep sleep there is the absence of ignorance and desire and action. endeavor, swam apitattvam sushupteva. Therefore, attaining one's own nature is only in the deep sleep state. Anandvagatam punyena, anandvagatam papena, anandvagatam ananugatam asamsprishtam. That in deep sleep state, there is no sparsha, there is no association with the punya or papa. Tirno hi tada sarvan shokan hridayasya bhavati. At that time, he crosses all the grief which obtains in the heart. Tadva eyaschetat atichanda. Adichandam kamarahitamiti, the state which is devoid of all kama, or the desires. Isha param ananda. So not only there is the absence of ignorance and desire, but there is also the presence of ananda. Isha param ananda. This is the supreme or the limitless happiness of this person, of this jivatma. Sushupte eva swam devatarupam jivatva vinirmuktam darshayishyami iti aha. Therefore, sage Uddalaka has this in mind, that I will show that the deep sleep state, how one attains one's own self. So jivatva vinirmuktam, how one becomes free from jivatvam, the state of being jiva, and swam devatarupam, and becomes one with one's own self, which is Paradevata, the supreme deity, the limitless. Sapnantam me mama nigadato he somya vijanehi vispashtam avadhara ityartha. So with that in mind, Shvetaketu says to the sun, Hey Somya, a good looking one, Sapnantam me vijanehi iti, may you know from me the sushupti or the deep sleep state. On the page 255, continuing, जीवत्व विनिर्मुक्तमिति अनंतरम अतः सुषुप्तमेव स्वप्नांत शब्देन उच्यते इति शेषः. This टीकाकार says that जीवत्व विनिर्मुक्तम अतः सुषुप्तमेव स्वप्नांत शब्देन उच्यते. This much add there. Okay. Then Bhashyakar continues in the 10th line. Kada swapnanto bhavate ityuchyate. So when does he attain the state called swapnanta, the deep sleep, uchyate, that is being said now. So Shruti said, yatra etat purusha स्वपिति नाम सता सौम्य तदा संपन्नो भवति. When this person is called Swapiti, at that time he becomes one with Sat. That is explained. Yatra yasmin kale etan nama bhavati purushasya swapsyatah. Swapsyatah of the one who is going to sleep, of that or sleeping. So etan nama bhavati, this becomes a name of the person who is sleeping. So the Tikakara says in line 36, Purushasya, not svatah but swapsyatah. अनेन नाम इति पदस्य नपुंसकस्य पुरुषपदेन सामानाधिकरण्येन अनुपत्तेः छान्दस्या प्रक्रिया प्रथमान्तं षष्ठ्यन्ततया व्याख्यातम्. So yatra etat purusha swapiti nama. So yatra etat purusha swapiti nama. So bhashya ke yatra etasya purushasya swapiti nama. When this purusha becomes swapiti, is called swapiti. Tikakara says that nama shabda is in the napumsakalinga, neuter gender. Purusha is the, so purusha, swapiti, nama, all of them are placed in the same adhikarana. But word nama is in neuter, word purusha is in masculine, therefore they cannot be in the same adhikaranam, same vibhakti. Therefore, Tikakara says that Chhandogya prakriya prathamantam shashtantata vyakhyadam. So purusha is prathamantam, it explains purushasya. So yatra etat purushasya swapiti iti purushasya nama. When this person gets a name, swapiti. Which purusha? Swapsyatah, of the one who is sleeping. For that, this is the name. Kintan nama. Purushasya nama. This is the name of the purusha. Kintan nama. What is that nama? Prasiddham, Sabhashyakara says, Prasiddham hi loke swapiti iti. Everybody knows that swapiti. Swapiti means he sleeps, you know. So prasiddham hi loke swapiti. He sleeps. So going back to the Tika, Kintan namita akankshayamaha prasiddhami hi loke swapiti iti padadhyaharana swapiti iti etan nama bhavati iti anvayo darshitaha. Swapiti iti padadhyaharana, adding this word iti, swapiti iti etan nama bhavati. Swapiti iti etan nama bhavati. Asya purushasya. So, etasya purushasya swapiti iti etan nama bhavati. Of this person, swapiti, that's a name or designation that he gets. Or Tikakara says, nama iti padam prasiddhyarthakam vastu iti abhiprayana prasiddham iti uktam. Or nama may not mean just name, it just means it just added in Vakyalankara for Prasiddhi. So Swapiti Nama is well known that this person is Swapiti when he is sleeping. That also can be another interpretation. The Tikakara continues, Swapiti Namnah Artha Paryalochanaya Jivasya Brahma Prapti Supto Gamyate iti Vaktum. So this word Swapiti, Nam Swapiti itself says Artha Paryalochanaya. So when we deliberate upon the meaning of the word Swapiti, Jivasya Brahma Prapti Supto Gamyate, then it becomes clear that the Jiva attains the state of Brahman that is revealed by the very name Swapiti. Iti Vaktum, this is what the teacher wants to say. Sata Somya Tada Sampanna Bhavati Ityadi Vakyam. Hey Somya, then he becomes one with Sat or existence. Tasya yada iti ataha praktanasya abhiprayamaha. So tasya yada iti praktanasya. Tasya tada, in fact, this text says, Tasya tada. So, tada sampanno bhavati. और भाष्यकार से यदा, ओके, सो प्राक्तन से भी प्रायमाह गौणम च. So says भाष्यकार, गौणम च इदं नाम इत्याह. This is a gaunam, meaning in secondary sense, this name Swapiti is there. Gaunam anvartham ityartha. So a name reveals the name is in accordance with the meaning, anvartham, having a meaning which is easily discernible, from the etymology of the word. Swapiti itself says that one sleeps or one attains one's own nature. So what is Gaunam Nama? That name itself reveals the person. So Sulochana, when you say a woman with beautiful eyes, then that is called Anvartham. That name reveals what that person is. So Swapiti, Anvartham, meaning that name reveals what that name means. So Swapiti, this person attains his own self. Idyaha. What? Sataha ityanantaram Sata Somya ityadinaha. That Sata Somya tada sampanno bhavati. That is how the Gaunam of the secondary name this person gets in the deep sleep state. Again the Tika says, Tatra Sada Somya ityadi vakyam Nam avayvarthasya supte jive sattva pradarshanaartham tad vyachaste. Tatra Sata Somya Sampanno Bhavati. Remember, this is what Shruti says. Tatra Sada Somya Sampanno Bhavati. At that time, he Somya, he becomes one with Sat or existence. So, this Vakyam, Nama avayavarthasya supte jive sattva pradarshanatham. Nama avayava. Swapiti is a Nama. And Swam, one avayava. Apiti, another avayava. So Nama, this word is made up of these two parts. So Nama avayavarthasya. The meaning of the two parts of that name. Supte jive sattva pradarshanatham. Then the jiva is sleeping, the meaning of this avayava exists. Swapiti is made up of swa and apiti. That's how they explain. So swam apiti means attains one's own self. So what the name means is exactly what applies to the person in the deep sleep state. So supte jive sattva pradarshanatham. Then this person who is sleeping, the meaning of this word is very much present there. Tad vyachaste yada iti. So Bhashyakara says, Yada swapiti ityuchyate purushaha tada tasmin kale sata satchabdavachaya prakrutaya देवतया संपन्नो भवति संगतः एकीभूतो भवति. यदा स्वपिति उच्यते. So when this person is called Swapiti, tada, this person is called Swapiti, tada, then actually Swapiti happens there. Tada means tasmin kale Sata sampanno bhavati. Sata sab shabdavachaya prakrutaya devataya. The devata which is sat, which is under discussion. Sadeva somme idamagrasid. Then again tat aikshata, sata aikshata, that devata again deliberated. Again further anena jivina atma. So this devata sat or existence of Brahma is under discussion. They are very devata. Sata is what? The third case of the word sat. So sata sa sampanno bhavati. Then it becomes one with sat. That is what? Prakrutaya Devataya, the Devata Sat or Brahma, which is under discussion, with that this Jivatma becomes one. Sampanno bhavati means what? Sangata eki bhuto bhavati. He becomes associated, means he becomes one with that. Then Tika says, Uktasya sat sampatti rupasya arthasya nam avayavachyatvam darshayitum swam apitah iti vakyam tadupayanan vyachaste. Uktasya sat sampatti rupasya arthasya. That the jiva becomes one with sat. That nam avayavachyatvam darshayitum. So swapiti, how these words were, and apiti, so that meaning applies to that person. Darshayitum swam apita iti vakyam, swam apito bhavati iti vakyam. Tat upapaden vyachaste. So samyatata sampanno bhavati, then says swam apito bhavati. So that is our meaning. Swam apito bhavati. Swam one's own self. Apito bhavati, he attains. He attains one's own self. That is swapiti. Iti vakyam tad upaden vyachaste. So swam apito bhavati, in that vakya which follows, Vashyakar explains, manasi iti. Manasi pravishtam mana adi samsarga kritam jiva rupam parityajya swam sadrupam yat paramatha satyam apitaha apigato bhavati. So manasi pravishtam mana adi samsargam jiva rupam. And the deep sleep state, this person gives up its state of being a jiva. Who is a jiva? Jiva is sat of the consciousness reflected in the mind. And that reflected consciousness is called jiva. And that is there as long as the mind is there. When the mind merges into ignorance, at that time, that jiva, the consciousness, gives up its designation or state of being jiva. And swam sadrupam apigato bhavati, then he gains one's own nature, which is swat. What is paramatha satyam, which is absolute reality. So from the relative reality of being jiva, he becomes one with his own true nature, absolute reality. You said yesterday, just as an ornament which is in the form of a bangle feels separation from gold, feels separation from other ornaments. When it is melted, then the name and form is no more there, then that ornament gives up its ornament, state of being ornament, and becomes one with gold. Something similar happens here. So what creates the idea of jivatvam, that I am a jiva, is the identification with the mind. Not only presence of the mind, but the identification of the mind. But for an ignorant person, the very presence also causes identification. So the only way that he can experience freedom is when the identification is not there. When what is identified with is not there, when the mind is not there, then he has the experience of this freedom. So manasi pravishtam mana adi samsarga kritam jiva rupam. Samsarga is identification. The consciousness can be reflected in the mind for vyavahara, but there need not be identification with the mind. So in case of wise person also, of course, the one who performs all the vyavahara is jiva, with enlightened jiva, meaning that wise person does not have identification in the mind. Here ignorant person has identification. So said, mana adi samsarga kritam, meaning mana adi samsarga is adhyasa kritam, identification with that. Jiva rupam parityajya, that's a great relief for this jiva. that there is no more, the identification is, Bhashyakara will explain later on, how that causes all the stress and strain. That doesn't remain. And therefore he enjoys his own true nature. Yat paramatha satyam, which is the absolute reality about himself. Apigato bhavati. Swam means so sadrupam paramatha satyam apigato bhavati, apito bhavati, apigato bhavati, apita or apigata. So in also in the sense of gato. That's what Anandagiri also says, Sati Jiva Rupe Katham Devata Bhava Sambhavati. As long as the fellow is Jiva, how can he become Devata? So Manasi Bhashyakara explained. So Nam Avayavartha Sadbhavat Jivasya Tasmin Gaunam Namayati Upasamhartum Tasmaditi Vakyam. That in the deep sleep state, the Jiva in fact attains the nature which befits the name. Swapiti. So the meaning of the Avayava, the two parts of the name, that meaning is very much present in the deep sleep state, and therefore he gets that Gaunam Nama, he gets that secondary name. So just Arjuna gets many secondary names, Parantapa. So Paran Santapayati. So one in whose presence all his enemies, they are scorched, almost scorches the enemies. So they are Anvartham, meaning that the name that reveals the nature. Tadvyachaste ata tasmad. Bhashyakara says, ataha tasmad swapiti iti enamachakshate laukikaha swam atmanam hi yasmad apito bhavati. Atah and tasmad. Now that's interesting, both have the same meaning. So Anandagiri is tasmad ityasya atah shabda vyakhyanam. Tasmad means atah, Tena paramrushtam hetumeva spashtayati. Because therefore, so what therefore? So swamatmanam. So atah tasmad swamatmanami yasmad apito bhavati. That yasmad is there because he attains his own self, therefore it is called swapiti. Iti enam achakshata laukikaha. Now the interesting thing is, enam Upanishad says, enam achakshate. They call him swapiti. Who is they? Laukikaha. People around him. The ordinary people call him swapiti. So this is well known among the people. Not only Shastra calls him swapiti, which is an Anvartham Nama name, but even Laukikas also call him swapiti. The next he calls it Ataheti Sasmadi Asyartha Kathanam. Siddhavat Ukta Sampattau Loka Prasiddhim Pramanayitum Swamyapita Hidi Vakyam Tadvyachaste. So Siddhavat Ukta Sat Sampattam. That what is already established by the Shruti, Loka Prasiddhim, is also supported by the Loka Prasiddhi of what is known to people. So sometimes what the Shastra says also is validated by what is commonly known to people. Or sometimes what the commonly known thing is validated by Shastra also, both ways. So Loka Prasiddhim Pramanayitum, that people say Swapiti has some wisdom involved in that. People may not know everything about what they are talking, but very often the expressions that we use in our day-to-day vyavahara sometimes reveal very deep wisdom. So when people call this sleeping person Swapiti, that involves a deep wisdom. Swam Atmanami Yasmat Apito Bhavati. Therefore people call him Swapiti, because he becomes one with his own self. Namnah Anvarthata Upapadanasya Prayojanam Spashtayate. How come the Upanishad goes to the extent of explaining the word like this, Swam Apito Bhavati? Namnah Anvarthata Upapadanasya Prayojanam. What's the Prayojanam? What's the reason why the Upanishad makes it a point to explain Swapiti as Swam Apito Bhavati? Why does Upanishad do that? So Gunanama, Bhashyakara says, Gunanama Prasiddhitope Swatma Praptihi Gamyate Ityabhiprayah. Gunanama Prasidh, that this Swapiti, not only Upanishad says Swapiti, but people call him Swapiti also. So Gunanama Prasiddhitah, because his Gunanama, secondary name, is well known. Tenapi Swatma Prapti Gamyate. From that also it is quite evident that this Jiva attains his own self, because not only Upanishad says, the people also says Swapiti. Oh, we have skipped some of these things, is it? The first line we did not read. Abhinav Narayana Nandendra Saraswati Tika Asmin Pakshe Etat Padameva Tannamayati Tannamadhevachi iti Bhavaha. When Nama is Prasiddhi, then Etat Padameva Tannamayati Tannamadhevachi iti. Then it shows Prasiddhi also, shows the Nama also. So this Swapiti actually is Tingantam, means a verb. Tingantasyapi Swapitiyasya Namatvam Vidya Prakash Upapaditam. Anubhuti Prakash. So we'll see this time, this year. Because this year we are doing Chhandogya Upanishad in Kayavaran, this verse will come. So Swapiti is Tingantam. Swap is in the second conjugation, and Swap Shayane, to sleep. And the first person is Swapiti. Third person actually, so is Swapiti. So there Vidyaranya Swami says, Tinganta Padamajnanam Subantam to Vivekinam Syanidranasya Namedam Vastu Tattva Bhasakamiti. Ajnanam Tinganta Swapiti, for ignorant person, is only a verb. Vivekinam Subantam, but for the Viveki it is noun. So Subantam, and so to verb the thing pratyaya is applied, to the pratipadika the sup pratyaya is applied. So for Vivekis, Swapiti is a nama. Okay, sa nidranasya namayadam. For Viveki, this becomes a name of the sleeping person. Why? Vastu tattva bhasakam. Because avabhasakam, it reveals the state of things as they exist, meaning he is becoming one with his true nature. Okay, so this much was remaining. So Nanandagiri says, Sushupte Swarup Avasthanasya Mukhyasya Asambhavat Muktatven Anuthana Prasangat Swarup Avasthana Prasidhe Nimittam Vaktavedi Pruchati. Sushupte Swarup Avasthanasya Mukhyasya Asambhavat. In the primary sense, you cannot say that Jiva becomes Brahma, because Muktatvena in fact, if he became Brahman in the primary sense, if he had knowledge that I am Brahman at that time, then he would have been liberated. Anuthana, then there is no need to wake up, because then he remains. Anuthana Prasangat Survavasthana prasiddhe nimittam. That is anusthan, that is abidance in one's own nature, but that is not known. That's not known. So as Swamiji differentiates between experience and knowledge. Formerly used to talk a lot about experiences, means experience doesn't reveal. Knowledge is what? Experience you always have. So deep sleep state, one does have experience of oneness with Brahman. But that does not reveal unless there is knowledge, that experience does not have. In a moment of happiness also, you become totally free. All kartrutva, bhoktrutva, everything goes away. In a moment of happiness, you lose yourself, you become one with Brahman. That is an experience. That is why there is a craving for that experience. One does not know, why do I always want to be happy? Why I want that moment when there is an ecstasy? So there is a craving, but not understanding. So experiences we do have, what the Upanishad does is gives us an understanding of our experiences. Therefore, Upanishad does not see the need of discussing any particular experience. Whatever experiences we have in our day-to-day life, those experiences are enough to reveal the truth. And therefore, the day-to-day experiences are taken by the Upanishad and then shows how Brahman is our nature. So, prasiddhe nimittam vaktavyam. How come people know this? What makes people know and say that swapiti? So that is laukikaha. The ordinary people call him swapiti. Says prasiddhe mula bhavat prasiddhi asiddha idyakshipati. People don't have knowledge. How do people know that he becomes one with his own self? So how do ordinary people use the word swapiti for him? Prasiddhe mula bhavat. This prasiddhi or something well known doesn't seem to have a basis. So without the basis, how has this become known to people? Katham punah. Katham punah laukikanam prasiddha swapna sampattihi. So how do the ordinary people know? When they use the word swapiti for the sleeping person, it seems that it reveals the knowledge that he becomes one with his own self. So katham punah laukikanam prasiddha swatma sampattihi. How laukika, how ordinary people know this? That jiva becomes one with his own self. So Tikakara says, Jagrat Shrama apanutyarthatvat swapasya shrama apanayanasya cha jvaritadishu survavasthane neva drushtatvat tena vina anupattehe survavasthan lakshana sat sampatti siddhi iti arthapatti anumanam va prasiddhi mula pariharati. Bhashyakara raises the question and then becomes a little complicated, So, Jagrat Shrama. In the waking state, there is identification of mind or upadhi. The dream state also, there is identification with upadhi. So, there is a notion of ahankara, a sense of smallness or limitedness. Because ignorance brings about an identification with upadhi. And that identification brings about a sense of smallness or inadequacy. And that is Shrama, that is the exertion that this poor fellow carries on for the whole day, during the waking state as well as deep sleep. Behind, at the back of all that we do, and all that we think, and all that we desire, so there's always this, that I am an inadequate, limited being. So this notion is involved in everything. And that itself is Shrama. Shrama means exertion. That itself is painful. To look upon myself as an inadequate being is the cause of all the sorrow, but that very notion itself is exhausting the person. So person gets exhausted. That ahankara, the limited self, becomes exhausted because all along he is doing the vyavahara in the waking state. And all doing that vyavahara, there is this sense that I am inadequate, I am no good, I am not this, I am not that. Because of that, he gets exhausted. Unfortunately, in the dream also same thing happens. So, Jagrat Shama Apanutyarthatvat Swapasya. The deep sleep state, that notion that I am a limited being is not there. So, all the Shrama, all the exertion that was caused by that sense of limitedness, it goes away. So, there is a relief. There is a relief from all the exertion in the deep sleep state. Something similar to a person carrying a load of, on his head, and is climbing a hill and gets exhausted and takes that burden on his head, takes the burden and puts it on the side, then there is a relief. Similarly, this Jivatma is carrying a burden. When ahankara is there all the time, there is a need to prove that I am alright, that I am something. There is a need to prove. And therefore he is constantly struggling. In the waking state and dream state, a constant struggle is there to feel good about oneself. That I am alright, I am good, I am successful, hum kisi se kam nahi, whatever, that I am not less than anybody else. He is carrying this burden all along, and therefore he gets exhausted. So deep sleep is comparable to putting aside that burden from the head, and he experiences a relief. Swapasya shrama apanayanasya cha jvaritadishu dushtatvat. So even though people do not know that this happens in the deep sleep state, but they know that deep sleep state is a relief from all the exertion. Just as jvaritadishu, when a person is suffering from fever, etc., Sarupa avasthananiva drushtatvat. So, when that jvara goes away, then one again comes back to his natural health, means attains his own self. So, as long as shrama or exertion is there, one is denied the benefit of being one's own self. When that exertion goes away, one has the benefit of being one's own self. So, disease, dis-ease, that time one is not at ease. So when that goes away, one now becomes at ease with oneself. Tena vina anupatte surupavastana lakshana satsampatti siddhi. So dushtatva tena vina anupatte. So this is arthapatti. Anyatha anupatti. That whenever the shrama goes away, exertion goes away, one gets a relief, one becomes one's own self. Meaning that whenever one is deviated from one's true nature, then there is shrama or exertion. Like in fever, people see how the person is suffering because he is not his own self. When fever goes away, then he becomes his own healthy self. Then they know that when shrama or exertion goes away, then one comes to one's own self, one attains one's own self. This is what they see in the day-to-day experience. And therefore, the shrama or exertion of waking and dream goes away in sleep. Therefore, he must be coming to his own self. That is why you can either call it arthapatti or anumana. So the word Swapini could not have been there unless he came to his own self. Or just as in case of fever, when the exertion goes away, one comes to one's own self. Similarly also in a deep sleep state, when all exertion goes away, one must be coming to one's own self. So prasiddhe mulam. Swarupa avasthana lakshana sat sampatti siddhi. That attainment of one's own self, which is abiding in one's own self. Prasiddhe moolam. So this is the cause of how people know this person is Swapiti. So Bhashyakara says, not Jagrata but Jagrat ityadina. Jagrat Shrama nimitta udbhavatvad udbhavatvad swapasya iti ahuho. Jagrat Shrama nimittodbhavatvad. So Jagrat Shrama nimitta, because there is shrama or exertion in a waking state, udbhavatvat swapasya. So swapa or the deep sleep state is because of the shrama or exertion of the waking state. Meaning when there is shrama or exertion, there should also be relief from that. Therefore, deep sleep is the result of waking. To relieve this person of the exertion that he is experiencing in the waking state, for that relief, this deep sleep is there. Iti ahuhu. So this is what they say. The sleep is for relief from the exertion. Jagaritehe punya punya nimitta sukha dukkhade aneka ayas anubhavar shranto bhavate. So Jagaritehi is well known that in the waking state, punya punya nimitta sukha dukkhadi aneka ayas anubhavat. Alright. So Bhashyakara continues with his own line that ayasa is, or exertion is, in experiencing pleasure and pain, which is a result of punya and papa. Shranto bhavati. Therefore he gets exhausted with these constant different experiences. See, Anandagiri explains it a little better, Jvaradiro grastasya svabhavasthitau prasiddha shrama abhava. For a person who is overtaken by a disease such as fever, etc., svabhavasthitau, when that goes away, then one attains one's own natural healthy state. Then we know that in that state there is no shrama or no exertion. Sushuptam cha shrama apanod avasthanam, and sushupti also is well known where one becomes free from all exertion. Tatha cha tatra sarupasthiti prasiddhi aviruddha. Therefore it is understandable, people know that in deep sleep state he becomes his own self because there is no exertion. Sangruhitam samadhanam vivranoti. So the samadhanam is, briefly Bhashyakara first said, Jagrat Shamanimitya Udbhavatvat Swapasityahu, then that itself is explained, Jagaritahi. Okay. Then further Bhashyakara says, Tatascha Ayastanam Karananam Aneka Vyapar Nimitta Glananam Swavyaparebhyah Uparamo Bhavate. Tatasya, thereafter, Ayastanam, fatigued, Karananam, all the sense organs and the mind, all of which have fatigued because of exertion during the waking state and dream state. Aneka Vyapar Nimitta Glananam, become glana, become weakened because of the constant activity that takes place in search of happiness. So trying to achieve happiness, trying to avoid pain, Sukha Prapti, Dukha Nivritti. Trying to become happy, avoid unhappiness. Constant struggle is going on. And therefore, the sense organs in the mind, they get all exhausted, become very weakened. So vyaparebhya uparamo bhavati, then they get a relief from all the vyapara, all the activities that they're pushed to do. Poor sense organs may not want to do, but the mind pushes them. And mind also may not want to do, but the inadequacy pushes the mind. The sense of inadequacy pushes the mind to do something, to become free from inadequacy. Then the mind pushes the sense organs to do something, to achieve something, to get something, to get rid of something. So being pushed, they don't want to do. They're being pushed. Now in deep sleep state, there is nobody to push them because sense of inadequacy is not there. So vyaparebhya uparamo bhavati, therefore there is cessation, all the activities. Siddhatika ayastanamidi asamantat vikshiptanamityartha. Ayastanam asamantat vikshiptanam, disturbed and distracted in every way. Bhashyakara says, Shrutescha Shramyatyeva Vag Shramyati Chakshuhu Ityevam Adi Tathacha Gruhita Vag Gruhitam Chakshuhu Gruhitam Shrotram Gruhitam Manah Ityevamadini karnani pranagrastani. So two passages are quoted Bhashyakara. Tatra shrame vyapar uparame cha. First quote is how all the sense organs are exhausted. Second quotation is how they get a relief from their exhaustion. Shramyatyeva vak shramyati chakshuhu. The speech gets exhausted, the eyes get exhausted. They keep on talking and talking and talking and gets exhausted. Seeing may not make him exhausted, but looking for something, that is exhausting. Talking may not be exhausting, but the compulsion to talk is all exhausting. So shramyatyeva vak shramyati chakshuhu iti. Tathacha, then uparama gruhita vag, the speech is absorbed. Gruhitam, in deep sleep. Gruhitam chakshuhu, the eyes are absorbed. Gruhitam shrotram, the ears are absorbed. Gruhitam manah, the mind is absorbed. Ityevam adini karanani pranagrastani. Prana swallows all of them in the deep sleep state. So there is a release from exertion in the deep sleep state. That's what this statement says. So karananam aneka vyapara nimitta glanir bhavati tarama shrutescha. That all the sense organs get exhausted, even Shruti also says that. Anubhava samuchayartha chakara shrutescha. That chakara is to anubhava samuchayartha. That experience also is there, and Shruti also says that. Sushupti avasthayam karanam uparato pramanamah. In deep sleep state, all the karana, the sense organs, they experience cessation of all this shrama, which is what also Shruti says. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Sutrabhashyakrutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।